When thinking of a park that's just a sheer spectacle to behold, that one park remains on your bucket list and you keep telling yourself one day I'll go there, but you have no idea when that would be possible. Well, I finally took that step into making that goal a possibility, and a couple of weeks ago I was finally able to visit Europa Park. This massive resort in Reuss, Germany, right along the German border with France, is Europe's grandest theme park. The scale of this place is unlike any other, with as of now 12 roller coasters operating within its gates, with 2 more opening later this year. Combine this with numerous dark rides and flat rides and you've got yourself a world-class destination. Today, we're kicking off a new series where you can follow me on my latest adventures across the Atlantic as we venture to new European destinations. Welcome to TPH Europe. After making our way into the park, I saw the glorious entrance that I've seen in pictures so many times, and it was crazy just to see it all finally in person. Good morning, everyone. We're back here with another vlog, and today I'm at Europa Park. This is the start of our second European journey. Basically doing the same trip, but hitting up all the places we missed here in Germany, Netherlands, Belgium. We're kicking it off at probably the best place to kick it off at. My very first time here at Europa Park. When we got in, the first thing we had to try was Arthur, this unique Mach Rides inverted power coaster. It's highly themed and unlike anything I've ever seen before. The outdoor section is super fun, but the theming and elements that happen inside this attraction are just unlike anything I've ever seen before. The ride literally plays Still Dre uncensored in the middle of the ride. It kind of feels like a trip, but in the best way possible. The fact that there are only 2 of these things worldwide is honestly shocking. I really hope that Mach continues to develop the system and other parks would invest in them, because the opportunities with this model are endless. Next up, we ventured towards the back of the park where 2 of the park's headline attractions lie. It was time to kick things off with Blue Fire Mega Coaster. This coaster is such a significant part of the history of Mach Rides, as it was their very first launch coaster they ever built. And this would just be the start of an onslaught of world-class roller coasters from this company. While I respect this coaster's history and what it did for both Mach Rides and Europa Park, the ride experience was quite underwhelming. There's no power, airtime, or sense of force really throughout the entire ride. The only highlight is that hardline roll at the end. It's actually one of the best inversions I've ever experienced. Other than that though, it is very fun. It is very smooth, it just doesn't really pack a punch to it. Now, a ride that does pack a punch was Wodan Timber Coaster. This is such a sought-after wooden coaster with its fast-paced layout loaded with airtime pops and crazy turnarounds. It's just a crazy wooden coaster from start to finish. The queue for this ride alone sets up this ride beautifully, and that layout, just wow. There are so many points in this ride where I feel like I'm going too fast. It's smooth, the airtime is great, it's just an action-packed ride from start to finish. Wodan Timber Coaster, that is one of the craziest, fastest, most relentless wooden coasters I've ever ridden. There's so many positives on it. It's so smooth too. How do they maintain that ride so well? That is by far one of the greatest wooden coasters I've ever ridden. We then proceeded to walk towards the back of the park to get up close and see their new for 2024 roller coaster in person, Voltron and Euro-Mir. This ride was just a spectacle to behold. While it wasn't open for my visit, I do plan on coming back later this year to experience this world's first Mach Ride striker coaster. It's essentially a large-scale version of their Big Dipper model, and this could possibly be Mach Ride's best coaster. With 4 launches including a backward spike, tons of airtime, and 7 inversions, this could hands down be the best coaster to open this year. So we planned the whole trip around one ride, and that was this ride. I want to ride it. It looks stunning. This by far looks like one of the greatest coasters in the world. After just being in all Voltron, it was time for Euro-Mir. This is the original spinning coaster, and it also is probably the most unique spinner you'll find. You start with the long spiral lift hill, and you do all the spinning at the start of the ride, as you just go around these winding flat turns that don't really make any sense, but honestly, it's fun. Then you'll go down a massive drop, switch directions, and proceed to go down an intense winding layout either forwards or backwards. Euro-Mir just caught me so off guard. That is an amazing ride. I hear so many negative things about it. The spinning is fun, it's long. The ride itself, I love the forwards and backwards kind of mystery of it. It's a very powerful ride too, very intense. Such a great ride, so good. Next, we entered my favorite area of the park, the Switzerland section. While it may not have the best rides, the look and the feel of this area was just beautiful. We walked over towards the park's Wild Mouse Matterhorn Blitz. This extended Mach Rides mouse is actually quite unique as it features an elevator lift hill. It's a nice little twist for a ride model that can be found in numerous parks. After, it was time to go right across to ride, in my opinion, the best bobsled coaster I've done, Schweizerbrabant, or Swiss Bob Run in English. This bobsled had great scenery and a large drop at the start, which is something that can't really be found on another bobsled, so it's nice to see. I'm usually not a fan of these models at all, but this was the only one I'd be willing to ride again. Next, it was time for quite possibly one of the greatest family coasters I've experienced. It was one of my most sought after rides when entering this park, and man, it lived up to the hype. This is Eurosat Can-Can Coaster. This one-of-a-kind Mock Rides family coaster actually used to be another original Mock family coaster just called the Eurosat. It was an icon within Europa Park, especially with this show building looking eerily similar to Spaceship Earth at Epcot. But back in 2018, they completely overhauled this coaster, but kept the iconic elements like the spiral lift hill and a similar layout. This coaster is super smooth and fast-paced, has some surprising moments throughout the layout, and the theming and music are just perfect for the ride itself. Even though that may look like Spaceship Earth, it sure isn't. And wow, Can-Can Coaster is one of the greatest family coasters I think I've ever ridden. That was awesome. The theming was phenomenal, and just, it's so fun. It was so smooth. It had some powerful moments. That's so awesome. That was an awesome ride. Now, we did have to ride every coaster in this park, so it was time for a little family ride tucked in the back corner, Pegasus. This Mock Rides Young Star coaster is quite a fun family ride. While this ride can be found at other parks, it's one of the better family coaster models to choose from. Finally, it was time for my most anticipated coaster in the park, Silver Star. This massive B&M hypercoaster is known around the world for being one of the best, and man, it sure lived up to the hype. With a massive 230-foot drop going up to 80 miles per hour, this ride is some of the best airtime you can find on a hyper. And the ride does not turn the trims off, so that final section features ejector airtime, something I can't say I found on any other B&M hyper. This is by far one of the best coasters out there. This ride right here might be one of the greatest coasters I've ever ridden. That is by far one of the best B&M hypers in the world. It was intense. It had ejector. It straight up had ejector on a hyper. That blew my mind. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting this to be one of my all-time favorites. That's just incredible. That blew me away. For day one, we didn't have much time left after this, so we ended it by walking back towards the Ireland section to knock out the park's kiddie coaster, Ba'a Express. While this one might be the most family-oriented coaster I've ridden, it's still a cute little ride that kids will adore. For day two, we ventured back and kicked off the day with Puritan in Batavia. This boat ride had an incident where the whole building burned down back in 2018. However, they rebuilt the entire ride with new effects and animatronics. And wow, it shows. This is hands down one of the greatest boat rides I've ever ridden. Even though it was 40 degrees, and I'm just a guy from Florida who gets cold in the 70s, we had to ride the park's water coasters. You gotta do whatever you can to get the credit, starting with Atlantica Super Splash. I already know I'm gonna regret this horribly, but let's get on Atlantica Super Splash. This Mock Ride Super Splash may be a cause of debate on whether or not it's a coaster, but the backwards drop, in my opinion, is what makes it count. After that, you go down a massive drop into the splashdown, and I didn't get that wet, which was nice, so overall, it is a really fun water ride. Next, it was time for our final roller coaster, Poseidon. This highly themed Mock Rides water coaster is easily the best of its kind. Its long layout combined with forces and fun splashdowns make it the best water coaster I've done. It's one of those you'll make in Planet Coaster, but you never think you'd see one to that scale. It's super long, and it's overall just a blast to experience. Well, I survived. It's freezing, but I remained pretty dry. That is by far the best water coaster out there. It's so long. There's many different sections on the ride. There's like a roller coaster part, and then you go back up and do another drop instead of all in one. Super cool, super long, just gorgeous to look at. Best water coaster. After I completed all the coasters, I wanted to go out and experience every dark ride this park had to offer. So I went over to their newest ride, the Snorri Torrin. This cute little dark ride actually has some fun little tricks to it, as there's a simulator section in the middle of the ride I had no idea about. Combine that with amazing theming and you have yourself a perfect family dark ride. The Snorri Torrin there is probably one of the hidden gems of this park. That was such a cool dark ride. It was very slow, but like that, it had little sections in there that just I was not expecting on a ride like that. That was sick, and this park is loaded with stuff like that. That is amazing. Next, I walked over to the Italy section to try out Piccolo Mondo, and this was the definition of a classic dark ride. It even had that smell throughout the ride, and that was a nice touch I really enjoyed. What I love with Europa is all the little tiny dark rides hidden around the park, like this one. It's so cool, it's so fun, it's animatronic heavy, 2 floors, and you would never guess that this little thing is here. Then I did this little Omnimover called, and I apologize now, Madame Freudenreich's Curiosities, which was an interesting ride, and it had a ton of smell effects in there, and some were pleasant, but there was a manure smell in the ride, and that was quite unpleasant. Other than that, it was a cute little dark ride. Okay, so this Madame's ride, it was an Omnimover, it was weird, it smelled like poop, and then smelled like oranges, and then smelled like chocolates. Then there was this Arctic themed dark ride that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. That was really cute. And then there was an interactive dark ride named Atlantis Adventure. I'm a sucker for any interactive ride, so this one was one of my personal favorites. Well, that Atlantis Adventure caught me off guard. It's a little shooter ride. I don't know anything about the dark rides here, and that was incredible. So I think there's a Vekoma Madhouse. Next, it was time for my first Vekoma Madhouse with Cassandra's Curse. This flat/dark ride offers quite a unique experience where the platform and room around you move, and it provides one of the most disorienting ride experiences you can ever find. I've never done a Vekoma Madhouse. That was the most disorienting, the weirdest ride I've ever done. I loved it, but there was like things blowing in my ear. There were pistons that were like playing with my butt. I don't know how to feel about that. Finally, it was time for the Voletarium. As much as I love this ride, it is a direct ripoff of Soarin'. The ride is themed after a custom airline that is going to show you many different sights from around the world. Sound familiar? Overall though, I love flying theaters, and this one is no exception. Easily one of my personal favorite rides in the park. Voletarium, that was amazing, but it's kind of funny how much they ripped off Soarin'. Like, wow, scene for scene, transition to transition, the golf ball, the finale, the fireworks, that was hilarious. But that was awesome, really well done. Overall, this park is incredible. The food is some of the best park food you can find. The atmosphere is unlike any other. The park has tons of transportation systems like the train and 2 different monorails that traverse throughout the park. It is some beautiful landscaping, and it is just covered with gorgeous gardens and scenery all around. There are sections that truly make it feel like you're not in a theme park. Along with all these attractions, we have 3 attractions coming this year. We already talked about Voltron and Euro-Mir, but they're also reopening their Mock Rides powered coaster that burned down last year, Alpen Express Enzian, and refurbishing their log flume to Rolly Wild Wasserbahn, and redesigning the whole area to become a new Austria-themed section of the park. The attention to detail here is unmatched, and it is by far one of the greatest theme park destinations in the entire world. Europa Park is hands down one of the greatest parks I've ever been to. And I bought an annual pass, so I will definitely be back because I gotta get on Voltron. That hands down looks like one of the greatest roller coasters in the world. Every ounce of this park is themed. It's not, you can't compare it to Cedar Point. You can't compare it to a Disney park. It's its own caliber of theme park. It truly is something special. Europa Park is Europa Park. We're gonna be at Trip Store tomorrow, so see you then and follow the thrill.